On this website audit, we are talking with Jill Stoddard, who has a wide variety of avenues that people can work with her, as well as a multitude of resources that she has created for clients. And we are talking about optimizing her personal brand's website and how we can streamline the user journey so that they immediately understand how she can help them in all the ways that they can either work with her or access her resources. This will be a really helpful episode for anyone who has a lot of different ways that someone can work with you or a lot of different resources and how to streamline them to make the customer journey a little bit more succinct. So let's get into it. Welcome to Website Design Made Simple, the podcast for busy small business owners who want a high-performing website that converts and sells their offers, even while they're sleeping. Because you deserve to have a strategic and beautiful website that truly represents your brand and positions you as the expert that you are. I'm your host, Jenny B., web designer and creative director at Jenny B Designs, where we believe that your website is the one thing that makes you sales and builds your brand at the same time. Ready to say goodbye to a website that you're embarrassed to share? And hello to a money-making, personality-packed powerhouse? Let's head into today's episode. Welcome to another website podcast audit. And what we're going to do is I'm talking to Jill. She is a speaker, author, podcaster, psychologist, and coach, all in one. She does a lot of things. And let's start with Jill. Can you tell me if your website was working for you perfectly, what would it be doing? What would that look like?
I think it would be getting the people who need me in each of my different capacities to me, like to find me if they need services from me, or to find my books or my podcast if that's, what they're looking for essentially.
And what would you say the roadblocks had been to preventing you from getting your website to do this for you?
I mean, my gut is that there's just too much going on. So, as you said, I do all of these different things, and I have a separate website for my clinic, my therapy clinic, and then I even have a separate website for my speaking, so that if I'm looking to kind of just focus people into those service areas, they can go there, because I have a sense that if I just send people to jillstoddard.com, they're like so overwhelmed that they probably just leave because there's too much going on. And I'm not sure if having 3 websites is the right thing to do or not.
Okay. Can I ask? So I think what I'm hearing from you is that you have a lot of different ways that someone can work with you, interact with you, a lot of avenues. And so
Right.
part of the difficulty is how do we share all that in an easy to digest way that when someone comes to your site, they can self-identify, well, I want to listen to the podcast, or oh, I'd like to take your workshop.
Exactly.
When it comes to this, okay, you have so many different avenues. Let's talk about money. Can you tell me which avenues do you find that you want to be generating income from? Do some take priority over others? Tell me about that.
Definitely. So my clinic is what makes my money currently. And truly, people find my clinic on their own. So when they Google, that they're looking for therapy for anxiety in San Diego, they find my clinic website, and that feels like it's doing okay. What my goals are, what I personally want to be doing a lot more of, is professional speaking. And that's where I would like to be driving more eyeballs and business.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. Let me jump in because we have a lot going on here with the different sites, and so I want to see if you can help walk me through it. Okay. Right now, we are on jillstoddard.com, which is kind of like the catch-all for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Your therapy, if I'm going to look in the drop-down, okay, if I click therapy, this takes people to a different site. This is your therapist site. Tell me what this is.
Yes. So this is my clinic that's in California, the Center for Stress and Anxiety Management. And I had it direct to the About Us page just because if people are on my site, they're there for Jill Stoddard. So I took them to that site because that is where all the information is that people need when they're looking for therapy.
Okay. And right now, this site does really well. It sounds like you have set it up for search. People are searching for you, they find therapists, and this is working well for the therapy practice.
I think so. Yeah, I've been in practice for 17 years
Yeah.
and we've got a team of 5 and we get we could always use more business, that is for sure. But it seems to be kind of doing what it needs to do.
Okay. Then, as far as the coaching, tell me a little bit about that.
So, coaching is kind of a newer endeavor for me. So, as a psychologist, we can only see psychotherapy clients who are physically in the state where we are licensed. So, I am currently only licensed in California, but I have moved to Massachusetts and I run my business from Massachusetts and I have a team that's still in California. We are allowed to also coach as long as we work within pretty strict rules. And so for coaching, I do some professional coaching. So I have a book about imposter syndrome. And so people will often find me because they have, ambitions, goals, et cetera, and their self-doubt and imposterism is getting in the way. And so they'll want me to do some professional coaching. I also do health coaching for people who are planning to have or have recently had bariatric surgery. Though my preference is not to work with a lot of one-on-one clients. So this is not something that I go out of my way to advertise. Like if people find me and want me to work with them and it's a fit, I absolutely will. But it's not something I'm kind of like out there working to build a caseload, if that makes sense. It's just kind of a smaller part of what I do.
Okay. And then when I hit speakers, because this is something that you wanted to focus on,
Right.
I'm taken to another page, the Wellbeing Speakers Collective. What is this?
So this is a group that I co-founded. And it's essentially 3 women who are all psychologists who, do the same things I do, write books and have podcasts and do speaking and are all wanting to build their speaker business. And we all talk about well-being topics, but in different areas. So the hope was that we can kind of share what we do, and people will find us here and be able to hire whomever the person is that's an appropriate fit. And then we also will share speaking gigs with each other. So if I do a talk for someone and I think that, Emily or Vanessa, who you saw on that site, would be a good fit for them, then I'll recommend them. So it's a way that we're trying to like lift each other up and kind of share the wealth in terms of speaking opportunities.
Okay. Okay, this is really helpful. And just for everyone who's listening, Jill has she's like a newsletter, which is wonderful. She has a quiz, which is an opt-in. You've got podcasts, you've got other media that you are featured in. And so you have so many resources. And so what I'm hearing from you is that you've got these different steps of your brand. This is website is pretty much your personal brand.
Correct.
And I like to be able to make it so that when someone lands here, they get an idea of everything that you're doing in an easy to digest way, and then they can get where they need to go. But they understand that you're the center of it. That starts with when someone lands on your website. And this applies to your hero image and your words, the words that someone sees when they land here, as well as your navigation. So the tabs that we have at the top of the website. The first thing that I'm going to say is that when you land here, you have a beautiful image and view. And then it says, the words say, "Welcome to my page. I'm so glad you're here." The first thing I think we want to do is come up with a really powerful headline and subheadline that shares exactly who you help, how you help them, and what we want them to do. Take the next step with you. I know that I shared this with you the other day, so I don't know if you put any thought into it, but sometimes my friend ChatGPT is a great help for this. And what I did is I grabbed all your homepage copy and some of your other pages, and I popped it in and I asked it to give me a benefits-driven headline and subheadline. And so it came up with a bunch of different options, but some of them were you talk about self-doubt, overcoming self-doubt and claim your bold, vibrant life, science-backed psychology tools to help you break free from imposter syndrome and limited beliefs in your career and beyond. Or choose a bold, vibrant life, expert guidance to help you harness your potential, overcome imposter syndrome, and stop letting self-limiting beliefs hold you back.
Mm.
Something, and you will be able to write this the best, but what I'm trying to get at is a catchy headline and then a subheadline that shares about your expertise. And you're not exactly, it's not like you're offering services, so you can't say through my group program. But we're trying to share, the benefits that they're going to get by being with you in these different ways that you can help them.
Makes
Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. Yeah, like I'm kind of saying this is what you'll get if you hire me, or no matter which of my resources you use. So it's less about the specific resource and more about the outcomes I promise, whether it's through a book, a podcast, a speaking gig, coaching
Yes.
therapy, etc. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That would be the first thing that I would get right. And you below there, you have a paragraph. And this is kind of like a
Mhm.
longer version of what I'm telling you to do. So even like working with that to help it become your headline and subheadline. And then there's a button there on that hero section. And that button is probably going to be your most important action that we want people to take. What I'm hearing from you is probably someone hiring you to be a speaker could be your most important action. What do you think in your mind is your most important action that you want someone to take?
Uh, I mean, that's what I really want to build. That's what I most want to build, is to be hired as a speaker. I think if that's where the button takes people, it's going to take them to an entirely different website, at least the way that it's set up now.
Quick question. Are you frustrated with your website? Not sure why it isn't converting? I would love to help. That's why I offer my website coaching calls. In just 50 minutes, we'll uncover what's holding your site back and create a plan to fix it. Whether you need help with design, content, or strategy, I'll give you the clear steps to move forward. Click the link in the show notes to book your coaching call today, and let's make your website your best marketing tool. Now back to the episode.
Which will take them off of my page. And I don't know if that's something that we wanted to do.
Okay, so let's address that first. Then maybe we could talk about your navigation.
Okay.
Because I think that we need to bring things here first before we send people off places to kind of complete
Okay.
the whole story. Right now, you have a toggle for your navigation, which means there's that hamburger, and when you click it, then you see the menu. Impossible. I like to have the menu be visible when someone lands on your website from a desktop. On mobile, of course, it's a toggle. But when someone gets to your website on desktop, the navigation is kind of like that grounding line where people look at the options and they get an idea immediately of what you do. And I think it helps guide people on the journey with you. Right now, you have About, Learn from Jill, which has a drop down with all your different options, speaking, coaching, therapy, workshops and trainings, TED Talks. And then you have podcasts and other media, and then read, the blog, books, monthly tips, testimonials, take the quiz, freebies, contact Jill, follow. So you have a lot of options. I like to narrow it down to 5 or less. And here is what I'm thinking about for you. For you, I would say a good example could be About, because this is your personal brand. So we want to have a good About page that shares about you. And then services, and under services, there could be speaking, coaching, therapy, on-demand workshops,
Yep.
and think speaking, coaching, therapy, on-demand workshops. And TED Talk is more like a resource, correct?
Yeah, that could even go under a resource, maybe with the podcasts or
Yes. So I would say About, services, and then resources. So under resources, we'd have your blog, we'd have your Substack, TED
Yep.
Talk, books. If you I
podcast.
don't know if you have
Yep.
more than one free quiz, but quizzes,
Mhm.
podcast,
Okay.
that would be
Can I ask you a real quick question?
yeah.
Are you going to share your notes from this with me, or should I be taking notes because I won't remember all of this?
I will share my notes. I'll give you a
Okay,
hand.
perfect. Good.
Yeah.
This is very good, juicy stuff. Okay.
Yeah, I'll share it.
Okay,
Um,
awesome.
having that under the podcast actually could have its own tab if you want. It's up to you. You have a lot of things going on. But if we got it down to about services, resources, maybe podcast and contact, that's 5.
Okay.
I think that that is a fair amount to have as the drop downs.
Okay. And I've never looked at the navigation and who's visiting where on my website, but my suspicion is that people aren't finding my podcast through my website. That they're like, it's probably not super important to have that have its own page.
I think it is good for SEO and to
Okay.
be able to have a place to send people to. Let me just see what you have over here. When you share your podcast out, oh, are these podcasts that you've been interviewed
So
on?
so the top one, Psychologist Off the Clock, is my podcast where I'm a co-host. So if you scroll down just a little bit, so this is my podcast. That's an award we just won, and I don't know how to make it smaller. So this is my podcast.
Okay.
And then if you scroll down, it's all the
The guest, yeah.
appearances that I've done. Yeah.
I
As a
think it's
guest.
important for your podcast to have its own. Oh, is this
Oh,
this for your podcast website?
yeah, that's our podcast website.
Okay. I think it's important to have it on your website. If you don't want it to have its own drop down in its own tab, that's fine. Maybe put it under resources, but I do think that it is important for just SEO and for continuity to have it on your website.
Yeah.
But that would be a really good way to narrow down the navigation so that people are understanding.
Okay.
And then as far as taking people other places, I think that we need to make that connection between what happens when someone clicks the therapy, they're taken to your therapy website. I think you need a page on your website that talks about how you have this business, you grew the team, a little bit about it, and then take people over to that therapy website.
Okay. So more like a landing page with a button that then goes to that larger website. Okay.
Yes, just so it makes sense for the visit. This is your brand. This is your
Yeah.
client. Talk about your story and then drive them over there.
Okay.
The same, I would say, goes to speaking. And this is where I know you want to focus on it a little bit more. Do you have on your speaker page, you have your reel and your bio? Is that what you've been sending out in your speaker sheet? Is that really what you've been sending out when you've been trying to get speaker opportunities? You send them the URL for this exact page? How do you
Or actually, I think I send them to our homepage from, so if you go, yeah, and then it gives you a sense of like who we are as a group, and then meet our speakers, and then you can get to me. It also has our, previous clients, a few testimonials.
are you trying to be hired as a collective or just yourself?
Individuals, but
Okay.
it's for them to find whoever's like the most appropriate speaker since we do different things.
I would suggest that you build this out on your page as well, to have
Okay.
on your brand's website that
Okay.
has your one sheet, it has your reel, it has speaker opportunities because you're building your personal brand too. And then you could have a nod to the collective and send people to the collective, opening up into a tab. But again, if the goal is to build your personal brand, we want to be sending people to this personal brand website to share all the ways to work with you.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Those were the 2 that went externally. And then the workshops and training, like the on demand. I think that if someone sees the word on demand or workshops under services, they'll be a little bit more apt to click on that versus drilling down. Like I think
Okay.
I could highlight this in the homepage. Let me just go back to the homepage. The homepage is kind of like a menu.
Mhm.
And it gives people a taste. And you have such a great way of sharing your credibility badges. I love this. I love the quiz, getting people into the opt-in. Might be nice to see is this section here where you have read the books, blogs, tips, listen to podcasts, learn online and in person. Perhaps having simple options that are the same as your services drop down.
Mm.
So perhaps you have 4 boxes: speaking, on-demand workshops, coaching, therapy. Very simple
Okay.
menu from the homepage, and we could just drive people to those 4 services.
Those pages. Okay.
Yeah. And then maybe at the bottom, if you have some resources that you want to share, really simply, read the book or get on the Substack, but very simple versus having a lot of different avenues that we're sending people to in this section.
So we would get rid of like all these links and basically just have like one that takes you to the landing page for services.
I would have the
Like a
4
button.
I would have like
Yeah.
4 options that would
Okay.
take you to each of the services pages.
Okay. Yeah. So it's 3 right now, but
Yeah.
with all these other links under the 3. And instead we'd have like those 4 each with their own one button.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
could you could
Okay.
use an icon, you could use a picture and a word. Like,
Okay.
simple is best just to send them to those specific pages.
Okay. That makes sense.
Just really trimming everything down so that we're sending people to where they need to take action and where they need to go.
Okay.
How does that feel? Making navigation changes, kind of streamlining where we're sending people and then creating a few new pages on your site.
Yeah, it feels great. I mean, it feels like it's exactly what I've needed to do. And it's just so busy and overwhelming. I couldn't figure out like how to kind of streamline and simplify it. So this feels great.
Okay. You have, like, so many incredible resources, and it's just, like, helping people get to them so that they can act.
Right.
And maybe even looking at your analytics to see how many people are going to which pages, which are popular. And if you find that a lot of people are taking your quiz or clicking on that monthly sign up, then have that as an option on your homepage,
Okay.
or utilize your footer. That's on every single page.
Okay.
People are really interested in, and then play around with it and just keep an eye on the analytics, and you can always, tweak as time goes on.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely that quiz is how I've gotten, thousands of Substack subscribers and which is a good way to supposedly is a good way to convert and introduce people to, your books and your other services and things. So
Yeah, absolutely.
it's been good.
Okay. Anything else that was on your mind?
I don't know. I feel like I had one other question and I can't remember what it was. Oh yeah, I think that's my footer, right? That I have that.
Mhm.
So it's on every page.
Mhm. When you get to the footer, it might be nice to repeat your menu, have your options down at the footer so that when someone gets to the bottom, they can make a decision again where they want to
Okay.
go.
If they scroll all the way down. One thing I don't know if this is like important. I ended up, so, I've always just been like Jill Stoddard and I have my clinic in California. And then when I moved, I kind of separated all of my non-therapy, non-clinical work. And I have this LLC, Flexible Communications, that is where everything else falls under. And so I've started putting more of that, when I'm applying for talks and that kind of thing, and they ask, what company are you from? Instead of saying Jill Stoddard, I want to be able to say Flexible Communications LLC, just feels more professional.
Yeah.
So I did buy that URL. And if you type it in, Flexible Communications LLC, it'll take you to this page.
Perfect.
So I don't know if there's anything that's like worth talking about there. So like if I'm depending on the context, I sometimes give Jill Stoddard, I sometimes give Flexible Communications, just in terms of like what kind of seems more professional or warranted. But
Mhm.
anything that like I should any do's or do nots when it comes to that?
No, I think that the way you've done it makes perfect sense.
Okay.
It's your personal brand. That's how people know you. And having an LLC that you are, doing business as, that's perfectly fine. And you've gone that extra step to get that URL to make it forward here. So I think that's a
Okay.
lovely way to have that
Okay.
continuity. But I always say you're a person, like people are a personal brand and people want to learn from other people. So you're the face
Yeah.
of all these different, avenues. So it definitely should be in your name. That should be your main URL.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Wonderful. All right. I will give you all the notes, Jill, so that you've gotten everything that we talked about. Why
I
don't
have a
you
lot of work to do. I'm gonna have to go back.
I think like once you get that navigation organized, then everything else is gonna fall into place and you'll be able
Yeah.
to make each page a little bit more strategic.
Yeah. I agree. I'm excited.
Awesome. Why don't you share with everyone? This is your chance, a little bit about you, where they could find you, all the things.
Sure. Well, we've been talking about, these are all the things on the screen that you can see. I'm sort of originally a psychologist, and over time in my career have started wanting to do a lot more creative things. So hence the writing and podcasting, et cetera. And really all of that came from a place of recognizing that not everyone has the resources to be able to participate in individual therapy. And so everything I do is about trying to get, contemporary science backed ideas from psychology, putting them in the most accessible format possible in ways that they will reach as many people as possible. And hopefully that's what comes across on the website. It's all about trying to promote people's well-being and mental health and help them flourish in their work and their life in whatever way I can.
Well, wonderful. Thank you, Jill. I appreciate you sharing your website and your expertise with us.
Thank you, Jenny. Thanks so much for your expertise. I can't wait to make these changes.
And that wraps up another episode of Website Design Made Simple. I hope you found the insights shared in this episode valuable and takes you one step closer to creating a website that attracts more of your ideal clients and builds your brand. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a minute to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or a rating on Spotify. Your review will help us reach more small business owners like you who are ready to make more money with their website. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.